Marcus Chen thought he was coming home to his peaceful mountain cabin after a 3-week business trip. Instead, he found police cars in his driveway, his belongings scattered on the lawn, and his HOA president claiming she owned his property. But what Marcus discovered next would expose a conspiracy so twisted, it would make national headlines and change property law forever. The gravel crunched under Marcus Chen's Toyota Prius as he pulled into what should have been his driveway. Instead, he found himself staring at the sheriff's deputies standing beside their patrol cars, yellow crime scene tape fluttering in the Colorado mountain breeze. His heart hammered against his ribs as he took in the surreal scene before him. His vintage leather armchair sat abandoned on the front lawn. His grandmother's china cabinet leaned precariously against a pine tree. Books, clothes, and personal belongings were scattered across the property like debris from a tornado. "Excuse me, sir, you can't park here." Deputy Rodriguez approached him, hand resting casually on his radio. "This is private property." Marcus's throat went dry. "Private property, officer. This is my house. I live here." The deputy's eyebrows shot up. "Sir, according to the complainant, this property belongs to the Penaview Estates HOA. We're here because someone reported a break-in and theft." Before Marcus could process this information fully, a voice cut through the mountain air like a chainsaw. Through silence, "That's him. That's the man who's been illegally occupying my property." Margaret Thornfield emerged from behind the cabin, her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun, her designer hiking boots crunching authoritatively on the fallen leaves. At 62, the HOA president had the bearing of someone accustomed to getting her way. Her pale blue eyes held the cold intensity of someone who'd never been wrong about anything in her life. "Mrs. Thornfield," Deputy Rodriguez nodded respectfully, "this gentleman claims he lives here." Margaret's laugh was sharp and mirthless. "Officer, I have all the documentation right here." She produced a manila folder thick with papers. "This property was transferred to the HOA 3 months ago due to unpaid fees and violations. We've been trying to reach this man, but he's been deliberately avoiding service." Marcus felt the world tilt beneath his feet. "That's impossible. I've lived here for 8 years. I bought this place with my divorce settlement. I have the deed, the mortgage payments, everything." "Show me," Margaret challenged, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Where are your documents?" Marcus's stomach dropped. His important papers were in his home office safe, the same safe that was currently somewhere in the pile of belongings on his front lawn. Assuming it hadn't been relocated already, Deputy Williams, the younger of the two officers, shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, do you have any immediate proof of residence? Mail, utility bills, anything with your name and this address? It's all inside." Marcus stammered, gesturing helplessly at his cabin, or it was before he trailed off, the reality of his situation sinking in like ice water in his veins. Margaret stepped forward, her expression a masterpiece of concerned citizenship. "Officers, I hate to see anyone in distress, but the fact remains that this property belongs to the Penaview Estates Homeowners Association. We followed all legal procedures. Mr. Chen here received multiple notices about his violations and unpaid fees. When he failed to respond or remedy the situation, the property reverted to the HOA as outlined in the original covenant." "What violations?" Marcus's voice cracked with desperation. "I've never received any notices. I paid my HOA fees annually, always on time." Margaret's smile was patient and patronizing. "Mr. Chen, our records show multiple infractions. Unauthorized modifications to the exterior, failure to maintain approved landscaping, and most seriously, operating an illegal short-term rental business without HOA approval." "I don't run any rental business. I work in tech consulting. I travel for work, but this is my primary residence." "Then explain this." Margaret produced her phone, swiping to what appeared to be a rental listing. "Your property, listed on multiple vacation rental platforms. We have screenshots, booking confirmations, the works." Marcus stared at the phone screen in disbelief. There was his cabin, beautifully photographed, Listed as cozy mountain retreat, perfect for weekend getaways. The description mentioned amenities he never advertised, activities he never offered, and rates he never set. I didn't create this listing, he whispered, but even to his own ears, the words sounded weak. Deputy Rodriguez reviewed Margaret's paperwork with the practiced eye of someone who dealt with property disputes before. The documents looked official, complete with county seals and legal stamps. Sir, I'm afraid we're going to have to ask you to leave the premises while this gets sorted out through the proper legal channels. But where am I supposed to go? All my belongings are here. My life is here. Margaret's voice took on a theatrical note of regret. Mr. Chen, I truly sympathize with your situation, but you've had months to address these issues. The HOA has legal obligation to protect the interests of all residents in Pennview Estates. As the deputies began explaining the process for retrieving his belongings and finding temporary accommodation, Marcus noticed something that made his blood run cold. Margaret was holding a key ring. His key ring, the distinctive Denver Broncos key his nephew had given him last Christmas, dangled from her manicured fingers. Where did you get those keys? He demanded. Margaret glanced down at her hands with practiced innocence. These are the property keys provided by the locksmith when we changed the locks for security purposes. But Marcus knew better. That cane wasn't just any Broncos cane. It had a small dent on the horse's mane where he dropped it in his garage 6 months ago. Those were his original keys. As Deputy Rodriguez handed him a business card and began the process of having him trespass from his own property, Marcus made a silent promise. Whatever it took, however long it took, he was going to find out exactly what Margaret Thornfield had done to steal his home, and he was going to make her pay for every single lie. 3 days later, Marcus sat in the cramped confines of a budget inn motel room, surrounded by boxes of documents retrieved from his belongings pile. His laptop glowed in the dim light as he stared at the vacation rental listing that had somehow destroyed his life. The more he studied it, the more wrong details jumped out at him. The listing claimed the cabin had a hot tub. Marcus had never owned a hot tub. It mentioned a fully stocked game room in a basement that didn't exist. Most bizarrely, it advertised professional massage services available upon request. Marcus had never given a massage in his life and wouldn't know where to begin. His phone buzzed with a call from Sarah Martinez, the attorney he'd hired with nearly the last of his emergency savings. Marcus, I've got news, and you're not gonna like it. Sarah's voice was tight with frustration. I've been through every document Margaret Thornfield provided to the county. On the surface, everything looks legitimate. The HOA covenant does contain provisions for property reversion in cases of serious violations. Marcus's heart sank, but the devil's in the details. The violations she's claiming against you were supposedly documented over a period of 18 months. The problem is, I can't find any record of these violation notices being sent to you through certified mail, which is required by both the covenant and state law. So they never actually sent me anything. That's what I'm thinking. But proving it is going to be tricky. Margaret has what appear to be certified mail receipts, return receipts, the whole paper trail. Marcus rubbed his temples, feeling the beginning of a migraine. What about the rental listing? I've never created anything like that. That's actually where things get interesting. Sarah's voice picked up energy. I had my investigator look into the digital footprint of that listing. The account that created it was registered to an email address that's definitely not yours. But the photos used are professional grade. Someone spent serious money on photography and staging. Staging? Marcus, when was the last time you were actually inside your cabin before your business trip? The day before I left. So about 3 weeks ago. Why? Because the photos in the listing show furniture and decorations that your neighbors tell me were never in your cabin. Someone furnished your place specifically for these photos, then removed everything before you got back. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. You're saying someone broke into my home, staged it, photographed it, then created a fake Rental business to justify stealing it. That's exactly what I'm saying, and I think I know who. Sarah's investigator had been busy. Thomas Pike, a former private investigator turned digital forensics expert, had traced the rental listing's creation to a computer registered to Thornfield Property Management LLC, a company that, according to public records, was owned entirely by Margaret Thornfield. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Mr. Chen, the voice on the phone was elderly, shaky. This is Dorothy Henkel. I live 3 properties down from your cabin. Mrs. Henkel, what can I do for you? Well, it's more what I can do for you, dear. I heard about your troubles with Margaret, and I think you should know that she's done this before. Marcus's pulse quickened. What do you mean? The Kowalski place, 2 years back. Beautiful property right on the creek. Stan and Linda Kowalski went to visit their daughter in Florida for 2 months. When they came back, Margaret had moved to seize their property for abandonment and unauthorized modifications. They fought it for 6 months before they ran out of money for lawyers. What happened to them? They lost everything. Had to sell to Margaret at a fraction of market value just to pay their legal bills. She flipped that property 6 months later for 3 times what she paid them. Dorothy's voice dropped to a whisper. But here's the thing, dear. I've been keeping an eye on things since then. Last month, when you were away, I saw Margaret at your place multiple times. She had contractors with her, photographers, all sorts of people going in and out. Did you get any pictures? Better than that, dear? My grandson installed one of those doorbell cameras for me last year. It's been recording everything. Marcus nearly dropped the phone. Video evidence. Actual proof of Margaret's activities at his property while he was away. 2 hours later, Marcus sat in Dorothy's living room, watching grainy but unmistakable footage of Margaret Thornfield directing a furniture truck to his cabin. The timestamp showed the date as exactly 2 weeks into his business trip over the course of several visits. The video showed Margaret supervising the installation of furniture, decorations, and even the hot tub mentioned in the fake rental listing. But the most damning footage was from just 3 days before Marcus's return. Margaret could be seen directing the same contractors to remove all the staged items, leaving his cabin empty except for his original belongings. Mrs. Henkel, this is incredible. Would you be willing to testify to what you saw? The elderly woman's jaw set with determination. Margaret Thornfield has terrorized this neighborhood for too long. She's driven out 3 families with her schemes. I may be 78 years old, but I know right from wrong. As Marcus drove back to his motel that night, his phone rang with another call from Sarah Martinez. Marcus, we've got a problem. Margaret just filed a countersuit against you for property damage, theft, and defamation. She's asking for $200,000 in damages. She's what? It gets worse. She's also filed for a restraining order, claiming you've been harassing and threatening her. There's a hearing scheduled for Monday morning. Marcus gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles went white. Margaret wasn't just trying to steal his property anymore. She was trying to destroy his life completely, but she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated Marcus Chen's determination to fight back. The Hamilton County Courthouse buzzed with an unusual level of activity. For a Monday morning property dispute, word had spread through the local legal community about the Chen v. Thornfield case, and the gallery was packed with curious attorneys, reporters, and residents from Penaview Estates who'd heard whispers about Margaret's previous property acquisitions. Marcus sat at the plaintiff's table, his hands trembling slightly as he organized his notes. Across the aisle, Margaret Thornfield was a picture of composed confidence, her silver hair perfectly styled, wearing a navy blue suit that probably cost more than Marcus's monthly mortgage payment. Her attorney, Richard Blackwood, was a formidable presence known throughout Colorado for his aggressive real estate litigation tactics. Judge Patricia Hawthorne entered the courtroom with the no-nonsense bearing of someone who'd seen every conceivable property dispute in her 23 years on the bench. Her reputation for cutting through legal nonsense was legendary. and both sides knew she wouldn't tolerate grandstanding or theatrics. We're here for the matter of Chan versus Thornfield. With cross complaints, Judge Hawthorne announced, "Mr. Blackwood, you may proceed with your opening statement." Blackwood rose smoothly, his voice carrying the practiced authority of countless courtroom victories. "Your Honor, this case is about a man who thought he could operate an illegal business on HOA property and then claim ignorance when caught. Margaret Thornfield, in her capacity as HOA president, followed every legal procedure to protect her community from Mr. Chen's flagrant violations. He gestured toward an easel displaying blown-up photos of the rental listing. "The evidence is overwhelming. Mr. Chen created and operated an unlicensed short-term rental business, advertising amenities that violated multiple HOA covenants and county regulations. When confronted with his violations, he chose to ignore legal notices rather than comply with community standards." Sarah Martinez stood for the defense, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was about to reveal. "Your Honor, my client didn't create that rental listing because my client didn't even know it existed. What we have here isn't a case of HOA enforcement. It's a carefully orchestrated fraud designed to steal Mr. Chen's property through manufactured violations." A murmur rippled through the gallery. Margaret's expression remained serene, but Marcus noticed her attorney shoot her a quick, questioning glance. "Mrs. Martinez," Judge Hawthorne interjected, "those are serious allegations. I trust you have evidence to support them." "We do, Your Honor. Substantial evidence." The first witness called was Thomas Pike, the digital forensics investigator. His testimony was methodical and devastating. The rental listing had been created from a computer registered to Thornfield Property Management. The email account used to create the listing was traced to an IP address registered to Margaret's home office. Most damning of all, the listing had been created while Marcus was documented to be 3 states away on business. "Mr. Pike," Sarah continued her examination, "in your professional opinion, could Mr. Chen have created this listing from his business location in Austin, Texas?" "Absolutely not. The metadata shows the listing was created and maintained exclusively from the defendant's IP address in Colorado. There's no evidence Mr. Chen ever accessed the account or even knew of its existence." Blackwood's cross-examination was aggressive but ineffective. Pike's technical expertise was unassailable, and every question only reinforced the evidence of digital fraud. Margaret took the stand in her own defense, maintaining her composure with practiced ease. Under Blackwood's direct examination, she painted herself as a dedicated community leader trying to protect property values from an irresponsible neighbor. "I followed every procedure outlined in our HOA covenant," she testified, her voice carrying just the right note of wounded dignity. Mr. Chen received multiple certified notices about his violations. His failure to respond left us no choice but to pursue the legal remedies available to us. But Sarah's cross-examination shattered Margaret's carefully constructed narrative. "Mrs. Thornfield, you testified that you sent Mr. Chen multiple violation notices via certified mail, correct?" "That's correct." "You have the certified mail receipts to prove delivery?" "Yes. They're in evidence as exhibits 12 through 18. Sarah approached the witness stand with a folder in her hand. "Your Honor, I'd like to introduce Defense Exhibit A, a certified mail log obtained directly from the United States Postal Service." Margaret's composure flickered for just a moment, so briefly that only Marcus noticed the flash of panic in her eyes. "Mrs. Thornfield, according to the Postal Service records, none of the tracking numbers on your supposed certified mail receipts actually correspond to mail sent to Mr. Chen's address. In fact, several of these tracking numbers correspond to mail sent to your own address. How do you explain that?" The courtroom fell silent. Margaret's mouth opened and closed without sound, her carefully rehearsed answers evaporating under the weight of documented evidence. There must be some mistake in the postal records," she finally stammered. "Or," Sarah pressed, "you created fraudulent certified mail receipts to cover up the fact That you never sent any violation notices to Mr. Chen at all. Before Margaret could answer, the courtroom doors opened and Dorothy Henkel entered, moving slowly with her walker, but carrying herself with unmistakable determination. Behind her walked a court bailiff wheeling in a large monitor. "Your Honor," Sarah announced, "I'd like to call Dorothy Henkel as a witness and present video evidence that definitively proves this entire case is built on fraud." Margaret's face went pale as the elderly woman was sworn in, but it was what happened next that would turn the case on its head completely. As Dorothy began her testimony about the surveillance footage, Margaret suddenly stood up, ignoring her attorney's urgent whispers. "Your Honor, I need to speak to my attorney privately. There are developments in this case that require immediate consultation." Judge Hawthorne's eyes narrowed. "Mrs. Thornfield, you're under oath and in the middle of testimony. Whatever you need to discuss with counsel can wait." But Margaret was already moving toward the exit, her composure finally cracking completely. "I invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination." The courtroom erupted as the true scope of Margaret's deception began to emerge. The courtroom fell into stunned silence as Margaret Thornfield's words hung in the air, like smoke from a gunshot. Judge Hawthorne's gavel cracked against the bench with the force of a judge who'd seen enough courtroom drama to recognize a confession disguised as constitutional protection. "Mrs. Thornfield, you cannot invoke the Fifth Amendment to avoid civil testimony about your own lawsuit." Judge Hawthorne's voice cut through the tension. "You filed this action. You put these matters at issue. Sit down." But Margaret remained standing, her silver composure finally shattered. "Your Honor, I need to withdraw my complaints against Mr. Chen immediately." Richard Blackwood was on his feet, his face flushed with the realization that his client had just imploded her own case. In front of a packed courtroom, "Your Honor, I request a recess to consult with my client." Denied. Mrs. Thornfield returned to the witness stand. "Mrs. Martinez, continue your cross-examination." Sarah approached the witness stand with the careful steps of an attorney who knew she was about to extract a complete confession. "Mrs. Thornfield, let's discuss the video evidence Mrs. Henkel captured. Are you familiar with the footage showing you at Mr. Chen's property while he was away?" Margaret's hands trembled as she gripped the witness stand rail. "I was conducting legitimate HOA inspections that required moving furniture into the property." Sarah gestured to the bailiff, who pressed play on the video monitor. The courtroom watched in fascination as crystal clear footage showed Margaret directing contractors to install a hot tub, arrange furniture, and stage the cabin for professional photography. Mrs. Thornfield explained to the court why a routine HOA inspection required staging Mr. Chen's home as a vacation rental. The silence stretched for nearly 30 seconds before Margaret's voice cracked like thin ice. "He wasn't supposed to come back." The words slipped out before she could stop. Then, and the courtroom erupted in shocked murmurs. Judge Hawthorne's gavel restored order, but Margaret had already revealed more than she intended. "What do you mean he wasn't supposed to come back?" Sarah pressed. Margaret's attorney was frantically shaking his head, but his client was beyond legal counsel now. The weight of months of deception was collapsing under the pressure of public scrutiny. "His business trip was supposed to last 6 months, Margaret whispered. "The company contract I saw said 6 months in Austin. I thought I had time to complete the transfer before he returned." Sarah felt the courtroom holding its breath. "Mrs. Thornfield, how did you see Mr. Chen's private business contract?" And that's when Margaret made the mistake that would change everything. "I had to verify he'd be away long enough for the abandonment clause to take effect. 30 days minimum for property abandonment under the HOA covenant." "How did you access Mr. Chen's private business documents?" Margaret's eyes darted around the courtroom like a trapped animal. His mail was being held at the post office. Are you testifying that you illegally accessed Mr. Chen's mail?" The courtroom was dead silent now. Even Judge Hawthorne leaned forward, recognizing that they'd moved far beyond a simple property dispute into federal crime territory. But the real bombshell was yet to come. Dorothy Henkel, still sitting in the witness chair from her earlier testimony, raised a shaky hand. Your Honor, there's something else the video shows that Mrs. Martinez hasn't mentioned yet. Sarah nodded to the bailiff, who advanced the footage to a timestamp from 2 months earlier. The video showed Margaret at Marcus's mailbox, but she wasn't alone. A man in a postal service uniform was handing her a stack of mail. Mrs. Henkel, do you recognize the person with Mrs. Thornfield? That's Barry Thornfield, Margaret's son. He's worked for the postal service for 15 years. The implications hit the courtroom like a thunderbolt. This wasn't just property fraud or mail theft. This was a conspiracy involving a federal employee using his position to facilitate the theft of someone's home. Margaret's face went ashen as she realized the full extent of what had been revealed. Your Honor, I want to change my plea. I want to make a deal. Judge Hawthorne's voice was ice cold. Mrs. Thornfield, this is a civil proceeding. You're not entering any pleas. But I am immediately ordering this entire record sealed and forwarded to the FBI for federal investigation of mail fraud and conspiracy. Sarah seized the moment. Your Honor, given Mrs. Thornfield's admissions, we move for immediate summary judgment on all claims, plus punitive damages for fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and coercion. Judge Hawthorne didn't hesitate. Granted, Mrs. Thornfield, you are hereby ordered to immediately return all property, keys, and documents to Mr. Chen. You will pay all his legal fees, moving expenses, and damages. I'm setting punitive damages at $200,000. But the story didn't end there. 3 months later, the FBI investigation revealed that Margaret and her son Barry had operated their property theft scheme against 7 other HOA residents over 5 years, stealing over $2 million in real estate through fraudulent violations and mail theft. Margaret was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Barry received 6 years and lost his postal service job. But the final twist came when Marcus was cleaning out his restored cabin and found something Margaret had missed. During her hasty evidence cleanup, a handwritten notebook detailing her entire operation, including plans to target 12 more properties and 3 different HOA letters across Colorado. Marcus turned the notebook over to the FBI, leading to the largest HOA fraud investigation in Colorado history and the recovery of stolen property for dozens of victims. Today, Marcus Chen works as a victim's advocate, helping homeowners fight HOA abuse. His cabin is his sanctuary again, and he's never been more grateful for nosy neighbors with security cameras. Sometimes justice isn't just about winning your case. Sometimes it's about exposing the truth that protects everyone else. If you think your HOA is overstepping their bounds, document everything, know your rights, and never underestimate the power of good neighbors watching out for each other.